Hey, everybody. Welcome to Carmela's Rasslin Radio Relived. We're here tonight with a very, very special guest. We'll talk
Yes.
about him in a minute, right? All excited?
Yes. Very
Before,
excited.
yeah, before we do that, we're going to talk a little bit about what's coming up. Don't forget, we have May 3rd. May 3rd is the One and Done by Joel. It's going to be awesome. There's going to be a ton of wrestlers there. There's a WrestleCon from 12 to 3 or 3:30, Jeannie.
12 to 3:30 is the
Okay.
WrestleCon, yes.
And then the show starts at 7:30 at night.
Yes.
All right, you can buy tickets at the door, but we don't recommend that because we're hoping for a sellout. So we recommend that you go to 2300arena.com for your tickets, okay?
Yeah.
It's going to be great. It really is going to be great. There's going to be a lot of people there, and there's also, after the matches, if you keep your ticket stub, okay, tell them, Jeannie.
The ticket stub to the show is what you
Not the
need to
con.
get right. Is what you need to get into the after party at the DoubleTree by Hilton, the old airport Marriott, and party with all the guys.
Oh, and the girls.
And the girls. And
Yep.
the girls. It's going to be a good time. It's really going to be a good time.
So we're looking forward to that. Also, the petition signing for the banner is getting
Yes.
really good. We have to
Yes.
get a new number. As of last week, we still needed 154 signatures from,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. So we can do that. Every time Jeannie and I put up the podcast, we will put up the link so that you can sign the petition. Heidi Lee Morgan last week said she was going to sign it, so I hope she did. She said she's going to get a few people. We're also going to ask our guest when he comes on if he signed it. And if he did not, we're going to yell at him. And then we're going to ask him to get a few people to sign with him. Okay. Also, tomorrow is Royal Rumble. We're going to talk a little bit about that later. But without any further ado, we have a really cool guest, and it's been not easy to get him on this podcast. So I'm really happy.
He's
that
very
here.
busy.
He's very busy, man. He's got his own faction and everything. He's so cool.
Yep.
Anyway, excuse me. Everybody knows him as the Blue Meanie. Brian Heffron, here he is. Hey,
I made it.
you sure did. Boy, oh boy, it was like pulling teeth.
Yeah, it ain't
How you
easy
doing?
being blue. It ain't.
No,
easy.
it's not, huh?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Good. Still busy.
Good.
Just hectic at times, but life.
That's a good thing.
That's the beauty of life, and
Always.
staying busy. But doing good. I'm excited to be here.
Good. I'm glad.
I go back to the Rasslin Radio days and Square
You're
Circle
actually a fan club member. Yeah.
Yeah. I might still have the button around here somewhere. I have my fan club button around here somewhere in my storage. But yeah, that was such a pivotal moment of my fandom in my childhood, as being a part of that community. And that's what I loved about it, was there was a sense of community there.
Yeah. We always had that. And the thing was, we were so proud of it. We were so happy. And the thing is like you, like some other people, like Brian Trammell and a few other people. And, God, I can't think of everybody's name off the top of my head, but, went on to do your own thing, which is awesome. And, you really took that fan club membership and really went whole hog with it. So I'm going to tell you right now, before we go any further, I am going to personally take credit for any of your accolades from now and forever, because it started with us. Now I'm only kidding. Now, whatever you did,
I mean, in a lot of ways, the Rasslin Radio, Square Circle, fan club definitely had an impact on my career, because before I discovered Rasslin Radio, I was just a fan of the aftermags. I wasn't really into the behind the scenes stuff, and then once I start, when I joined the Square Circle fan club, and listening to Rasslin Radio and meeting other fans who are a little bit more smarter to the business, I discovered newsletters, and through the newsletters, I discovered wrestling schools, and I had to try out the Monster Factory the day after WrestleMania 8, I believe. And then eventually I found the school I was going to. I went to Al Snow School out in Ohio, but I might not have ever discovered that world if it wasn't for our community, Square Circle fan club and Rasslin Radio.
Well, it's funny. That whole scenario was kind of like a seat of the pants thing. It was something that was
Like most
literally,
pro wrestling, yes.
yeah, it was something that was literally discussed at my kitchen table. You know, Joel and I started out as he was my insurance salesman, and he and I and my ex husband were sitting at my kitchen table one night. Probably, I think we were even finishing up dinner or whatever, and which is what everybody did back then. Everybody's at my house for dinner. Um, and we started talking. We all like wrestling. Let's do something with it. But we were actually, if I'm not mistaken, the first wrestling store to actually sell merchandise for all the organizations at that point. But when we got the opportunity to do Rasslin Radio, that for me anyway was pivotal. It was great, and to see the people today like you and Brian and it's like crazy to see that people still remember us from back then, but how far you guys have both come. Brian's doing his own podcast. He's got a couple of them actually for like 7 years now. And you did so well with wrestling. I mean, you really did well for yourself. Tell us a little bit about what your accolades are.
Well, I was fortunate enough to, be a part of ECW. And anytime I do an interview or documentary, I talk about ECW. I always say ECW. I always say Tri-State Wrestling Alliance was a precursor to ECW. That's how much Tri-State and Rasslin Radio and the Square Circle Fan Club meant. But I joined ECW. I was only a year and a half into the business when I got discovered for ECW by Raven, Scotty, and Stevie Richards, who I believe he trained at Joel's school as well back in the day. I worked in ECW for 3 years. Became known for, we were part of Raven's faction, but like me, Stevie, and then later on Supernova, Mike Bucci, became known for doing parodies in wrestling. We would do parodies of, Blue Dust and Colonel De Beers, and our most famous one is the Blue World Order, which was a parody of the New World Order, which was the hottest thing at the time. And I mean, still to this day, people, that's probably our most remembered parody. So through ECW, and then eventually in 1998, I was able to join the WWF.
Wow.
Worked there for 2 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah. The cool thing about my career is everything's centered around Philadelphia. I was born in Philadelphia. I debuted for ECW in Philadelphia. I debuted for the WWF in Philadelphia. And then I had my one and only WrestleMania in Philadelphia. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of storybook where if you went to do a movie about it, people are like, "Oh, that's too corny." That's not true, But I got to do some good things in WWF, and still work. After WWF, I went back to ECW for a little bit before they closed, and just continue to do stuff on the independent scene. And now I do a lot of stuff with I got my own podcast, and I have 2 podcasts, and try to do as much as I can to help the younger talent as well.
That's crazy. I mean, like Jeannie always says about her little independent people, I feel like a proud mama here. You know what I mean? Yeah. I feel like, I'm watching my little boy, grow and become this famous person. And I am extremely proud of you. I want you to know that. It's amazing what you have done, with yourself. Now, let me ask you a question. How was it working with the WWF at the time?
Oh, it was insane. I was fortunate enough to be a part of ECW and WWF during their hottest periods. ECW, I was there from 95 to 98, which, probably the craziest time there. And then when I joined the WWF, they were in the middle of the Monday Night Wars in the Attitude Era. So it was just like being a part of a rock band. You're just going on the road and, there'd be fans everywhere. This is like especially like pre 9/11 when people were allowed to go through the gates even though they didn't have a flight, kind of thing.
Yeah.
People would meet the wrestlers at the gate getting off the plane, or you go to your gate to leave. And there's tons of fans just hanging out. But it was crazy. I mean, you're traveling. The travel was more hectic in WWE. You'd be away for 2 weeks, go home for 2 days, and then you're back out. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. It just I was very fortunate to be able to do anything in wrestling. Growing up as a kid, I was born a severe asthmatic, and spent a lot of my childhood like a boy in a bubble. Every spring and every fall, I would have to go to the hospital, and they put an oxygen tent over my bed, and I'd have IVs in me with medication to help me and stuff like that. So when I told my folks, I was raised by my grandparents and my mom, and to tell them, oh, I want to be a professional wrestler, they're like, yeah, that's cute. So when I'm packing my car to drive off to go to wrestling school, they're like, oh, I guess he's serious.
Wow. Did that impact your asthma a lot?
I think getting into wrestling helped my asthma. There's a point where maybe I was around 13. We found a really good lung specialist.
Okay.
In Margate. I lived in Atlantic City for a little bit, and there's a really good lung specialist the next town over in Margate, New Jersey, and they got me properly diagnosed and got me on the right medication. So by the time I was ready to move on, I stopped using my inhaler and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
My lungs started getting better. I was on the right medications. My lungs were getting stronger, and I don't want to say I grew out of it because I still have symptoms here and there, but it's not like it was when I was a kid and they would have to rush me to the hospital, it's because I couldn't breathe, and my list of allergies, it was like the Declaration of Independence, just,
I can imagine.
As a scroll, but the fact that I was able to do anything in professional wrestling is just, even if I had just one match, that would have been a bonus,
Yeah.
I got to do some cool things, with some good people.
Very cool. Now, if you had to pick an organization, ECW, WWE, WWF, or TWA, which, I'm going to ask you a double question here. Which federation do you think was the most rewarding, and which do you think was the hardest?
Oh, man. I mean, I would have to say ECW was rewarding because without ECW, I would never have been noticed for WWF. WWF was watching ECW television, borrowing, and they borrowed a lot from ECW. And, I was told when WWE signed me, they, Vince Russo would watch, the ECW shows. And when they were expanding from doing one show a week, one live show a week, the two, they had Monday Night Raw, and then they're going to start doing Sunday Night Heat. They needed more talent, and Vince Russo liked what I did. So without ECW, I don't know where my career would have went. I could, I would, I honestly don't know what I would have done. So,
very cool.
I mean, I wish I could have worked, the old school tri-state, because, those shows were so much fun,
Now, did you go to the old Tito, like Bar Wars, or?
I went to the one show where they Owen Hart wrestled Iizuka, and then I believe I went to a Temple show too. Jerry Lawler almost caused a riot. So,
well,
those shows were so much fun, and I wish I was in the business, early enough to go to those shows, but unfortunately,
Yeah.
But you're going to be there for May 3rd.
Oh, absolutely. It goes back to, it's all about my beginnings, without this crew of people, I don't know where I'd be right now. Maybe I'd still be working in the casino somewhere, just, who knows what I'd be doing right now. I might not even made it in wrestling, but thanks to, catching up with, or finding out about Rasslin Radio, Square Circle Fan Club, and TWA. It's very instrumental to my wrestling career.
Well, I just want you to know that if I ever show up anywhere that you're wrestling, I better get in for free. Okay.
Yes,
just saying. All right. But now let me ask
you. Will on the 3rd. And I'm
oh yeah, no, actually I already bought my ticket. Forget it. Joel already screwed me on that one. Yeah, no, Jeannie and I bought our tickets. He was like, no, you're not getting in for free. So there you go.
What a rip.
But where did the actual, now you had mentioned Blue Dust and Blue all this stuff, but where did the name Blue Meanie actually come from?
Well, in short answer, it came from Raven. I'd been wrestling for a little bit on the indies, as like Brian Rollins. And that really wasn't going anywhere. And then Raven saw me in a couple shows, and Steve Richards was his lackey, his stooge. And they had the idea of having a lackey for a lackey. And they wanted, to have a guy who's like a, bigger size, but would dress like Steve Richards in the half shirt and the Daisy Dukes.
Oh my God.
And he saw me, he said, I fit the bill. And, I was like, okay. He asked me if I wanted to do it. And I was like, absolutely. He's like, you're going to have to wear a half shirt and Daisy Dukes. I was like, but I'll be in ECW. He's like, yeah.
Yeah.
We're doing me, Stevie and Raven, do a show in Pittsburgh for a guy named Norm Connors. And we're driving back to Raven's house, through Pennsylvania in this blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
And, he goes, hey, I got this idea for you. Did you ever see the movie the movie Yellow Submarine when you were a kid? I mean, did you ever see the movie The Yellow Submarine? I said, yeah, when I was a kid. He's like, do you remember the character, the Blue Meanie? I was like, vaguely, I saw when I was a kid. It was a cartoon, a Beatles.
Oh, okay.
The Beatles cartoon. And he's like, you remind me of that character, the Blue Meanie. And you're going to be, from now on, you're going to be the Blue Meanie. And you're going to want to paint your whole body blue, but just dye your hair. And I'm like, all right.
Oh, my God.
I was just looking for a spot and just looking for an opportunity. And I don't, call me the Blue Meanie, but, like Dusty Rhodes said when they gave him the polka dots, I'm going to make it work, just.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And he did make it work. And you did make the Blue Meanie work. I'm telling you, that has followed you forever. Okay. Yeah. And like, sometimes, like I said to my daughter, it's funny because my daughter doesn't really follow wrestling that much anymore. She knows the John Cena's and the Randy Ortons and all that. And she said to me, who's on your podcast tonight, Mom? I said, the Blue Meanie. She went, oh, and I said, get out. I said, the Blue Meanie? She goes, yes, I do. I met him once. And I was like, really? And she goes, yeah. She goes, I know who he is. I know him. And it's funny because like I said, she doesn't really like WWE once in a while. And I have like poured Will Ospreay down her throat, the poor kid, but for her to say, that she knows who you are, that's saying something because she doesn't do that with many people.
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, we went to one of Mike Tartaglia, the boss's, one of his, I think it was, when he took over TWA and ECWA. Mm-hmm. And Brian was on the card and we had all went.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where, because I remember going to a couple of Mike shows and you were on the card. And it was great. Yep. Yeah. So
that's funny. But I remember as far back, obviously, as the Squared Circle fan club and the radio show and all that. And I remember the bus trips. And if I'm not mistaken, and I could be because, I'm old now, but I'm not mistaken. I remember yelling at you one time when we were doing something on the bus. And it was you and Brian, I think you and Brian and maybe Jamie. I'm not sure. But I was like, you guys were messing around doing something. I'm like, let's go. We don't have time to play around. Get on the bus. And I was yelling at everybody.
I remember getting yelled at on one of the buses when we were doing the Memphis trip. Because we were driving back from whatever show at night, and somebody took out their camera and I did this too, so I can't say I wasn't the only one, but we take photos on the bus and the flash would just blind everybody on the bus. Yeah. Everybody's like, bleeps, knock it off, and just, I think I saw photos of people like, blank.
Yeah, especially at night. Yeah, that'll get you.
I
But
remember getting yelled at for that.
yeah, it might have been me then, because I do remember yelling at you for something, and because you were
Might have
only a
been.
little boy,
Yeah.
and it's funny because when I look back on those times, I'm like, everybody there was basically like family, like my
Yeah.
children almost, except for the older people. But we had a lot of really, really good times, a lot of fun. But I wanted to ask you, like, what do you think, or what would you think of us? And we've mentioned this before, but I'm thinking about it, reenacting another Squared Circle fan club, reenacting another thing with buses and dinners and stuff like that. I personally think it'd be pretty cool. What do you think about something like that? And would you be willing to be one of our guests?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on where the trips go. I mean, I'm always down for a road trip anyway, just to Mrs. Meanie's to chagrin, because like, I go, well, if I could drive there, and she's like, no, especially if somebody's offering a flight. I'm like, nah, I'll drive.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, it depends
good.
on let's see
Yeah,
where the trip goes,
Well, we're thinking about it only because it's the most important part of that is because seeing wrestlers today with the bigger organizations is so much money. It's ridiculous, and people can't afford that stuff. And I figured, when we used to be able to do it, we used to be able to charge a lot less, and we probably still can. But, we'll see what happens. But anyway, I don't want to go too far away from what we're talking about with you. When you say you'd rather drive, what's the farthest that you've driven for WWF? Like, where did you go? Where was the
WWF? I didn't drive too far. Like, everything was within like a 300-mile radius, but the furthest I ever drove for a booking was for ECW. We drove down to New Orleans.
Oh wow, you drove down there?
Yeah, well, the benefit of it was I traveled with the ECW sound guy, this guy named Randy, and he had a conversion van, and he would pull all the sound equipment. And as long as I helped, load in and load out, help them load in and load out the equipment, I can ride down for free, as long as I help, split part of the driving duties as well. So
yeah,
we did the trip down, and like we split it in half. Like, we stopped halfway down in Georgia, and then went to sleep, and then drove the rest of the way the next day. And then, but on the way home, we just drove straight through.
Wow.
And that was like 22 hours straight, probably. Yeah.
Wow.
That's a lot of driving.
Well, you're young and dumb, and it's everything's an adventure. So
it is, and now you have something to tell your grandchildren one day. That you did this or that or whatever. But that is an important thing, though. You have a lot to document. You have a lot of experience, a lot of beautiful adventures that you can tell people about. Yeah. Do you honestly think that you'll be involved in wrestling, like, for the rest of your life, or as long as you possibly can?
I'm sure I'll do some things. I can't wrestle full time, or I really don't do too many matches anymore, just because my body doesn't recover like it used to.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be 52 in May, but even though mentally I'm 13.
You. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I can still do some stuff, but I'll always be around it somehow, whether it's conventions or doing seminars with some younger talent or whatever, just making an appearance here and there.
Have you ever thought about doing public speaking, like going to schools or that kind of thing, to talk to people about becoming a professional wrestler? And like, I think that's important. I think there's a lot of stuff that kids need help with today that they're not getting.
Yeah, I mean, if the opportunity ever arose, but I wouldn't know how to approach that. Just if somebody came to me and said, "Hey, would you like to speak for at our school with our students?" I'd be like, "Oh, absolutely." It's amazing what wrestling's done for me. In school as a kid, if I had to speak in front of the class, I would be super nervous. And doing a demonstration, my hands would shake like that. But now I'm more comfortable in front of a bigger crowd than a smaller crowd. So I could definitely do that.
Yeah.
If the opportunity ever arose, possibly. But we'll see where that road, where the if the opportunity ever comes up.
Now, how was it training with Al? I mean, that must have been an experience. Like how
It was
really
great.
old school training.
Yeah, Al was awesome. Because you always hear nightmare stories about people give their money over for training, and then they show up the first day and the ring's not there and the building's empty, and they left with your money. Fortunately for me, I found Al through a woman named Phyllis Lee. Phyllis Lee was this. She was a female wrestler back in the day, and I was originally going to go to the Malenko's wrestling school, and I found out that the cost of living down there was a little bit high. So she's like, "Well, have you heard of Al Snow?" I was like, "Yeah, I heard of him," because Al was starting to pick up steam. He had a really good feud with Sabu, and she goes, "Well, he has a school in Ohio, same tuition, and you would be able to actually live in the school."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the school was it used to be a old Masonic temple.
Oh, wow.
Yes, we were I want to say the fifth and sixth, or the sixth and seventh story of the building. We had 2 floors to ourselves. So if you got off the elevator, you go to the right. There's a commons area where there's couches, TV, kitchen. Go down the hall. There's Al's office, and then there's the main where the ring was looked like a miniature version of the Manhattan Center in New York. It was like this small auditorium. And I got to live in the school for a year. And
wow.
The benefit of that was, we would have guys who would travel down from Canada, guys who come from Kentucky, Pennsylvania, stay a couple of days, and then go back home. And then, have to travel, where I lived in the school the entire time.
That's awesome.
And Al would have 2 sessions a day. There would be like the 10 a.m. session, and then he would go and do whatever he had to do, and then he would come back at like say 6 o'clock. So I was training with him twice a day for maybe 5 days a week.
Right.
And then if he had a booking on a Friday, I would travel with him to his bookings, just to get just to travel with him, and it also gave me a feel of what I was getting into. And I'll tell you one thing. You can get in the ring and roll around and do all the moves and, do all the cool spots. But I learned more in those car rides than I did in the ring. You could teach anybody to do a move.
Right.
But it's the whys, the whens, the hows and make it mean something. And there'd be plenty of times where Al would train me something during the week. And I would go watch him wrestle on a show, and he would work in the thing he taught me during the week in his match to see how
you were listening.
That, and to see it in its proper context.
Oh, okay. All right.
We would do this spot. So like, we would do a spot in training. So I'd go watch him wrestling. He'd do the spot. He's like, see what I mean? I go, now I get it.
Exactly. Well, that's great.
Yeah, it's something to explain something, but then you see it done, then you get a whole new appreciation for it. But Al, like my first day was rough because you're learning how to bump and your body's not used to it. And, you're supposed to land flat, and your feet are supposed to be flat, and I'm hitting my heels and my shins are like killing me. And I remember there's a time I rolled out of the ring and I went and sat down, and he's like, all right, what's wrong? I was like, I can't do it. And a big brother, like a big brother, like a father, he's like, all right, take a breath, get some water, come in, do it again. And he believed in me, and that's all it takes is a little bit of encouragement. And if I didn't learn part A, I couldn't move on to part B. If I didn't learn part B, I couldn't learn on the part C. He didn't rush anything. He made sure I knew what I was doing before I moved on.
That's pretty cool. Well, it's funny. It brings me back to Jeannie. I'll have her tell you the story when we went to Dominic Danucci's wrestling school. We went to visit Dominic in Pittsburgh a while back. And we actually went there and we had dinner at his house and went to see his wife. And, I don't know how much you know about me and the podcast, but we had many, 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 many years of wrestlers, being friends with them coming to my house for dinner, staying at my house, and blah blah blah. So we had gone down to his school after we had dinner or before, whatever. And I remember him saying, like, we were just talking and he wanted Jeannie to get in the ring, but I'll let you tell that in a minute. But when we were talking, like, he was telling me, like, when somebody's laying down and you pick them up, like, from their feet and, like, throw them over your shoulders, like, their thighs have to be on, or their knees, past their knees, have to be on your thighs. Otherwise, there's no way they're going to get picked up and go over. Like, you can't really pick somebody up by the feet and twirl them behind you. They have to be they have to lay on your body a certain way. And we were going over all that. So then go ahead, Jeannie. He wanted her to become a wrestler in the worst way, though.
He wanted to train me so bad. And I wanted it, but I was too scared. And he got me in the ring after they were done their training thing. And he said to his student, suplex her. And he says, but not a standing suplex, a snap suplex. So all I could think of was Davey Boy Smith. I'm like, I'm going home with a dislocated something, And so we did it. I screamed as I went up and over. And he said, you did it wrong. Do it again. I said, what did I do wrong? I went up, I went over, I landed on my back. He said, you landed with your legs straight out. You got to land with your feet on the mat with your knees bent, so or otherwise you're going to have back problems. I'm like, Dominic, I love you. I'm not going to sue you. I'm fine. Really. I'm okay. He would not let me out of the ring until I did it. And I did it. And I bent my knees and I did it. And I fell in love with it. I really wanted to do it. Yeah. But especially back, mid 80s, women were just not respected. And I'm like, unless I always work for Dominic.
Yeah.
I ain't going nowhere.
And only Dominic,
And only Dominic, I mean, Joel wound up doing, but at that time, TWA wasn't a thing. So, but I was too scared about, being mistreated and, in the business.
Understandable.
But, well, that's the thing. It's like, and it's a shame because today, even though the women have a whole different respect today, there's a lot different relationship between women in wrestling than there was years ago. I still tend to think there's still a little bit of stuff that's not copacetic still, but it's a lot better than it was years ago. But we had a lot of experience in so far as learning what was going on, how like I was telling in the beginning of our podcast, we did a lot of old school, and why we did that is because we wanted the fans to know what it was like for a wrestler back then, who is not a wrestler of today, the wrestler back then. And we had Davey O'Hannon on, we had Manny Fernandez, we had other people on, and it's like they learned their trade. There was no wrestling school. They learned their trade as they were going from match to match to match to match, and there was no, this is the ending. Okay. But there was no like, okay, I'm going to give you 3 of these and then 2 of those. And then you do this to me. It was nothing like that. You went in the ring, you literally got your ass kicked, You knew the ending. That was it. Okay. And then they went from town to town by themselves. They, ate. I can't tell you how many times I've heard wrestlers tell us that, they ate out of cans of tuna fish, or they ate, cans of chicken, shredded chicken or whatever. And today, obviously wrestling has come a long way. Yes. But today, their moves are all pre-planned. Their matches are all rehearsed. I mean, if they get hurt today, it's most of the time it's an accident. It's not because they just beat the hell out of each other. You know what I mean? Like recently, and I don't know if you watch wrestling anymore, but you just this past week on, I think it was Raw, JD McDonough was doing a fly. Did you see that?
The moonsault,
off of the ring, and he went. What happened was when, and honest to God, I got to tell you, Brian, I thought he broke his neck. Okay, when he landed with his head on the table where the commentators are, and his head went back like that, and it came forward. But apparently, he broke his ribs. I don't understand that, but it did look like
I don't mean to laugh, but yeah, the way wrestling works, that normally that would be the thing. Yeah, the one thing you think you hurt the one thing and it end up hurting someone else completely.
It's crazy. He actually finished the rest of the match. God bless him. Okay. But he said, and he's out for a couple months now, but he said from that fall, but I could have I swear to you, if gun to my head, I would have said he broke his neck. Really. But apparently not. He didn't do that. But whatever. It was crazy, you know. Yeah. And by the way, I just want to let you all know I am wearing my Will Ospreay. Can you see that? Will Ospreay shirt. Okay, I love Will Ospreay. I don't care who likes him, who doesn't. I do. I love him. But anyway, enough about Will Ospreay. But you know, but we tried to make the fans know. And by your story that you're telling us tonight, you were not as roughhoused as the old wrestlers, but you're also not as polished up, you know, like they want you to be today. In other words, you came from an area, from a background of where you had a lot of hard knocks, you know, you learned as you went along, as opposed to, you know, being prepped. Like now they have the Performance Center in Florida. Well, before you can go from the Performance Center to NXT, you've got to be top notch or they're not going to let you go. And before you can go from NXT to the main roster, you got to be top notch or you're not going anywhere, you know. And again, years ago, it wasn't like that. Like I said, you walked into a building. I want to be a wrestler. Okay, get in the ring in front of people. You know, this is what's going to happen. End of story. You know, and that's the scary part that people don't know, they don't appreciate. I'm going to tell you one thing real quick. Somebody said to me on a thing on Facebook or something, and the guy said to me, he said, because my title says during the golden era of wrestling, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, I think you're misinformed about the golden era. And I was like, how so? You know, and he said, well, he goes, the golden era was, you know, Tully Blanchard's father and, you know, Vince McMahon Sr.'s father and, you know, all this. I said, look, you know what? I said, I'm 67 years old. Okay. I was around for 67 years. I can talk about most of that time till now. Okay. Unfortunately, Vince McMahon the first and you know, people like that are dead. If they were alive, they'd be on my podcast. You know what I mean? You know, you can't say that because I don't have the dead people on my podcast that I am not a woman who knows the golden era of wrestling. You know what I mean? Like years ago, you know, my family was very good friends with Ernie Ladd. You know, awesome. If you mention Ernie Ladd today, nobody knows really, like the kids today, I don't know who he is. That was the first man I ever met in my life who was like close to 7 feet tall. And I was at the Philadelphia Arena. I don't know if you remember that, Brian, or if you were ever there at the Philadelphia Arena.
I've heard tales.
Oh my God. I can tell you, I could do a whole podcast on that building. But, you know, their ceiling wasn't, you know, 10 feet tall, like most ceilings are. It was like maybe 8 back then, the parts of it. And his head was right underneath there, man. But he was so kind. He was so sweet, you know. And again, people don't realize that about wrestlers. But again, getting back to you and your story, if you had to pick your very, 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 very toughest match, who would you say it was? Or maybe the first 2 people.
Oh man. Tough. And I've had a few.
Say them.
Well, I'll say my favorite opponent was Tracy Smothers.
Okay.
Because I mean he brought it to you, but he expected it back, but he helped. Because like I said, when I went to ECW, I was only in business a year and a half, and then when I was having matches, it was me and Nova against the FBI, the full-blooded Italians. And
oh my God, yeah, I remember them.
And we would wrestle every weekend we wrestled every weekend for a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always a learning experience. But like, you know, Tracy, like I said, Tracy brought it to you, but he expected it back. And it helped you build a callus, you know, to what we do in the ring, you know. It just, I look back at the things I did in my 20s. I'm like, there's no way I could do that now, you know?
No.
But, you know, just, you know, I would go back to, me and Tracy go back to like my first year in the business. when I was staying out of school, I would book me out to different, promoters and uh, independents. One weekend I'm driving out to Chicago for Windy City Wrestling, and then there was a period every Thursday night I was driving out to Indianapolis, Indiana, for a promotion called Circle City Wrestling for a guy named Mike Samples. And Tracy Smothers was on those shows. Ricky Morton was on those shows. And once, I got to ECW and Tracy Smothers came over to ECW. He's like, "Oh, you're that big fella from, Circle City." And we hit it off. And, he took the time to like explain things and, taught me in on the job training. As you were saying earlier, there's a lot of job training, where you go out there, you have a couple bullet points, but the rest of it was just called on the fly, and and Guido's, was a spark plug too. Man, he's a legit shooter, and if it wasn't for them being so gracious with their willing to teach me and sell for me, it's I don't know where I'd be, because it takes everybody to do what we do. When I trained with Al, I was trained to have the ability to call it in the ring, where there's plenty of shows. I'd go down and work in Wrestling Kentucky, and there was a heels locker room and a babyface locker room, and I didn't see my opponent until I got to the ring, and we're feeding messages to each other, through the referee and stuff like that. And
see, that was real kayfabe back then.
Yeah, I wrestled for Bobby Blaze in I want to say Pikeville, Kentucky, maybe. It was definitely Kentucky. I can't think of the city. And I wrestled this big guy named Buddha, and he was bigger than me. And I'm asking the ref, "What's he look like? What can I do with him?" He's like, "He's big." That's all I.
That's all you need to know. He's big.
So I get to the ring. I say, "Oh, he's big." So, but we had a fun match. We called it in the ring, and I never saw the guy outside the ring for the rest of my life. We met in the ring, and that was it. And
wow.
So
did you ever find out whatever happened to him?
No. That's the sad thing too, because he was probably a great guy, and we probably off, outside the ring, but we met in the ring, and that's the last time I saw him, and that was the only time I saw him. But that's the wrestling business. I made so many great friends. There's people I went to wrestling school with who I thought could have made it, but unfortunately didn't get a chance to go as far as I did. But I thought they were more talented than I was, and that's how the wrestling business works. It's crazy. The people you think are going to be the biggest stars just can't seem to find that break. I got to do certain things. I'm like, man, it's a shame so and so never got a chance to do this. And you think back, but
that is a shame.
I guess my toughest opponent was the business itself.
That's a good answer.
Physically and mentally, because when you're that, here's a perfect example. I lived in a small apartment on 3rd and Shunk in South Philly, and I go away for 2 weeks. Brutal schedule. Come home. I'm finally flying home. I'm on my flight to connection to Philly. The plane, they're like, there's a delay in landing due to weather, and we're circling for an hour. It's like, I just want to get home. Plane lands, get in a cab, get to my house, walk into my house, lay down on my bed, put my bags on the floor, sit on my bed, lay down. My grandma comes in and goes, "Oh, the doctor's office across the street saw you come home. Can you come over with some 8x10s?" I'm like, "Come on." But it was cute. It was cute. Yeah. And yes, I did go over and bring some 8x10s, but but it's just it was my toughest opponent was the wrestling business itself.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Now, do you have a favorite feud?
The FBI.
Yeah,
because we got to do it. Led to so many things. We had the BWO for a little bit. It was me, Stevie, and Nova, and then Stevie Richards went to WCW, and it was just me and Nova. And Raven had left, Stevie had left, so Paul wasn't sure what me and Nova were doing. So we kind of rode the bench for a second there, like, well, why am I going to put these guys on TV if they're going to leave? And once he saw we weren't leaving, we started having a feud with the FBI. And, you know, I want to say it was May of 98. Me and Nova had our first pay-per-view tag match against the FBI. And to this day, people still come up and talk about all the matches me and Nova had with, you know, Tracy Smothers and Little Guido. And so many fun memories. Even referee John Finnegan, you know, was a huge part of our match, you know.
Aw.
Because Tracy Smothers made sure that everybody in that ring looked good, even the referees, and he would work out a spot where, you know, Finnegan would accidentally have to body slam him. You know, it's just it's like, you know, tackle drop down. He goes over me, he almost runs to the ref. Ref goes, "Oh no!" and accident, you know, picks him up and body slams Tracy. You know, just goofy stuff, but
that's nice.
Goofy stuff in a believable way.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, where the fans will be like, "Oh no, did you see that?" You know, that's
Ref
pretty
had
cool.
no choice.
Yeah, yeah. What could he do?
And
right?
actually, John is going to be after May 3rd because he's going to be at the May 3rd show, reffing, and he's retiring. That'll be his last match.
Easily one of the best referees in the business.
Oh God, yeah.
Easily.
Yeah, he's good. He's very good.
And it's about the small things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can anybody can, you know, count 3, but like I get in the ring, he'd be like, "All right, see where my foot is? There's a hole in the mat. Stay away from that."
Oh,
you know, like he would give me intel if there's a problem with the ring. Why he's giving me the pat down? All right, these ropes are a little bit loose, or there's a hole in the corner over there. Stay away from that corner. Stuff like that. Where if I can know, I've blown out my knee, but Finnegan's the best, man.
Yeah.
In and out of the ring, great human being.
He is. He's a good person. He has a great wife, great family. Yeah, he's a really good guy.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you. I know you said that you can't do the things now that you used to do, and none of us can.
Yeah.
You know, at my age, sometimes I feel like just getting out of bed is a whole day affair. Yeah. But is there any injury that you have gotten that has been severe enough to impact your life?
Nothing too bad, but you know, every now and then I have a trick elbow, or you know, just every now and then part of me wants I gotta get a little sip here.
That's okay.
Who knew talking can blow you up? But you know, typical knees, back. You know, I feel, you know, cold weather time, but nothing too bad. You know, but I am getting to that point. You know, like I said, I'm 51. I'll be 52. And it's getting to the point where, like, I'll see somebody I know and I can't think of their name right off the bat, and I'll go, "So is that just me getting old, or is that a wrestling related?" I
think it's both. I think it's both because I feel the same way. Yeah. I never wrestled, and I'm wondering who she is right now. You know,
I have my own name written on the palm of my hand. You know?
Exactly. And it's funny because, like, you know, funny you should say that because at my job, you know, I still work full time, and awesome. You know, I'm the head bookkeeper where I work, and it's so funny because you could say to me, "What door did you walk in when you came in this morning?" And I'd be like, "I don't know, whatever one was open," but don't say anything to me about my job. You know what I mean? Thank you, God. I can still do that job like I could do it with my eyes closed. You know what I mean? Like that job to me is the way I feel about, like I talk about wrestling. Like I could just, you know, thank God for that because that part hasn't been affected, you know, but every once in a while, like you said, I, you know, walk out, I'll play around with my daughter and I'll walk out in the living room and I'll say, "Do you live here? Like, who are you?" And she's like, "Mom, stop that. You know, you make me really nervous when you do that." Like,
who are you and what have you done with my horse?
Yeah. I didn't come to work in my car today. Where's my horse? Yeah, but it's true. Like, I love torturing her. And she gets so scared because, you know, I mean, obviously kids worry about their parents a lot more today than they did before. But, you know, but it does after a while, like, you know, you get to a point where, like, you know, you feel like, I don't remember what I said. Like, I don't remember. And it is normal. And especially with you have a double whammy between getting a little bit older and wrestling, you know, that has hit you. But like again, look at JD McDonough. I don't know what that's going to do to him in 20 years. I'm telling you, Jeannie, I know you didn't say it, but I'm telling you, if there's any way, go on YouTube, look at it. I'm telling you, that man The way he hit that thing looked like his head was going to fly right off. I'm so not kidding. Okay.
Yeah, I
that
don't
is
want to see
scary.
that.
No, I'm telling you, his head, I swear to God, you know like those bobble dolls? And all of a sudden his head just went bang. And it was really something. But do you still watch wrestling today, Brian?
I still watch. I can't watch it as much as I'd like to due to my schedule, but like I'll watch, and the thing is with social media, you don't really need to watch the shows. Everybody puts the clips online as it's happening.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, well, I guess I don't need to watch the show now.
Yeah.
But I still watch, I still follow. I got some proteges out there. They're doing some good stuff. And I love professional wrestling. I'll always love it to the day I die. It's just it depends on what's going on. Like, maybe 2 years ago, I'd watch nothing but AEW and kind of watch WWE, but now I find myself watching more WWE than AEW. It's just
don't say that.
Well, it depends on what's piquing my interest. I
love AEW.
I think they're a great place for the business, but right now there's things that could be better.
Yes, of course.
With anything.
I know. No,
nothing's
I know.
100%.
It's going to take time.
Yeah, and like I said, it just depends on where the business goes. Wrestling's very cyclical.
Yes.
So,
were you at WrestleMania 40 in Philly last year, or watched?
I actually got. Speaking of, I got hired to host a viewing party at the 2300 Arena. And WrestleMania weekend, WWE hired me to give private tours of the 2300 Arena to their VIPs.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So tell us about that, Brian.
All the people who have the same seats in the front row and stuff like that. WWE reached out and they wanted me to give like a tour of the ECW Arena. This is where Paul Heyman gave that speech. This is where this happened.
Wow.
And that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I got to do 2 tours for them. Then I did 2 tours for the 2300 Arena itself. 2 days before that. So I did about 4 tours that weekend at that building, and then I did WrestleCon that weekend as well. But and people go, well, how can you give a tour of the building when that looks nothing alike? I was like, well, I've been convincing people for 30 years that I'm an athlete. I think I can paint a picture of how things used to be and tell
exactly
stories,
Speaking of the 2300 Arena,
yes,
and how we are going to be doing May 3rd, and a lot of that has to do with how it all started with Bay getting drinking a little too much wine, as he says.
No way, Bay.
I know, shocking. And him wanting recognition for Larry Winters, DC Drake, Johnny Hotbody, Tony Stetson, and Joel Goodhart getting a banner hung at the 2300 Arena. Now, have you signed the petition for the banner?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
How about having some friends sign? Yeah, we were going to yell at you.
Well, here's the thing. I having promoted shows, I always believe if you promote a little bit too early, people may forget. But if you promote a little bit too late, people might not have something already planned. So I think right now is the sweet spot to really push for that. So people can't forget, and it's not late enough for them to have something already planned. So we're right in that sweet spot to where, like, hey, Royal Rumbles this weekend, blast out some links during Royal Rumble, so everybody's glued to their phone anyway. Do promote the show with the hashtag Royal Rumble in there, and people see the information for the show.
Exactly, that's what we're going to do. We're going to put Royal Rumble in there. You're right. Do you still keep in touch with a lot of WWE people, or the company itself?
I have friends who currently work there. I have friends who I worked with. I got a couple, people I've worked with that, or guys like Damian Priest. I helped him a little bit.
You went to school at the Monster Factory, right?
Yeah. I hate to say coach. I like to say mentored, because he had already been wrestling for a while before I met him. But there's just a few things, here's things that worked for me, and here's the mistakes I've made in the business, and just pass those on, so if they encounter those things in their journeys, they can recognize it before, they hit the iceberg,
So let me ask you a question. Now you said 2 podcasts. Can you get WWE people on your podcast, or are they contracted too much?
When it comes to my podcast, we don't have guests.
Oh, okay.
Just for the fact that my schedule, my co-host, my one podcast is mine and the MEANIE, and it's me and my co-host Adam Bernard, and our schedules are so crazy that if we tried to get a guest, they would have to be able to work around our schedule, kind of thing. But I've been doing that for almost 5 years now, and it's just a BS session. It's just 2 guys talking about anything. We talk about wrestling, music, movies, sports.
Okay.
Whatever comes to my mind. Then I have another podcast called Mornings with Meanie, which I do every Saturday morning on ad-free shows, which is behind the paywall, where we just talk about the week in wrestling, and I take fan questions. It's interactive. We have a live chat while that's happening, and same with Mine and Me. We have a live chat where people can interact and add to the show as we're going along. Yeah.
Very cool. Now, let me ask you a favor. When we post this, I'm going to try, if I don't get it dropped tonight, I'll do it first thing tomorrow. Depends how tired I am when we're done. But when we post this, obviously I'm going to tag you in it.
Of course.
Would you please post it on your page or
Absolutely.
your, whatever you have?
I'd be a fool not to,
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I really do, because we're still new. We don't even have a whole year in yet. We're still new, and I'm not pushing any bars, right now. We don't have any sponsors yet. We don't, it's just like we're just kind of wetting our feet here, really.
Yeah.
So I'd like to try and get as much push as possible. And then
the best time to post release a podcast, I would say, would be like a Monday morning, because Monday mornings or any morning, when people are looking for something to listen to, on their commute to work.
Yeah.
When they're driving in the car, they're in the subway. Let me listen to something to take my mind off having to go to work.
The fact to have to go to work,
or they listen at work while they're pretending to work, So.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I do. I work from home, so nobody cares. But I listen to all the podcasts.
Everybody's got their phone on. Everybody does. They watch TV. I can't do 2 things at once, unfortunately. So I can't do the phone and my work. So I just don't do it. But a lot. Well,
I need background noise in order for me to concentrate. It's really weird. Yeah. But I do listen to I'll re-listen to this on Monday while I'm working. And
that's funny. I would do the same thing.
Yeah. I'm hearing that from a lot of people. Like a lot of people, like the guys that I work with. I work for law enforcement, and the guys that I work with, like every time they come in, I'm like, "Well, did you listen? Did you listen?" And they're like, "Only when we're driving. We need something to listen to when we're driving." So if they don't drive, they don't have a chance to listen or whatever, because they're busy doing other stuff. But it's just exciting, and it's something, like I said, that somebody had suggested to me before I started the podcast, because we still have our old Rasslin Radio tapes. And they said, why don't you just do it, leave it as a legacy for your children, so, I mean, they could turn it on and see you and hear your voice. And I don't have any of that of my mother, and I wish I did, but it started out that way. But now I would like it to become a little bit more, you know what I mean? I'd like it to become a little bit better. I'm not looking for, any great shakes. I don't know how many listeners I have on a regular, to be honest with you. I know how many times it's looked at. That doesn't mean it's how many times the whole thing is listened to. I know that, but it's just something that we're trying to push a little bit now. But let's get back to the May 3rd show, because you're definitely going to be there, because we're getting, it's about an hour now. We're before we say goodbye, we're going to push that again. You're going to be at the WrestleCon, and you're going to be at the show as well, right?
Yeah, I'm participating. I don't have an official match, but I know I'm participating somehow.
Yeah. Are you going to be maybe around the ring, one of the
lumberjack match?
There's a good possibility. There's a good possibility.
Are you going to go to the after party?
Huh?
Are you going to go to the after party?
Oh, ouch.
Yeah, twist my arm. Twist my arm a little, would you?
Yeah.
That's awesome. We can't wait to see you. We can't wait to be there.
Oh, baby, it'll be a blast.
Oh, it'll be great. I want to tell our fans that this guy right here is the example, okay? A perfect example of what perseverance and struggle can really do for you. He started out as a little boy in our fan club, getting yelled at by me, and here he is. Look at him. Now he's got his own faction going on. He's got the BWO. He's an awesome replica, I should say, of what life can really be like. And you've made a lot of leeway for yourself, and you've done really well for yourself. And I got to tell you, as a mom, I am very proud of you. I remember you, like I said, from back then, and you have really, really done a lot with yourself. And I'm very, very proud of you for that. I really am.
I'm only as good as the people I've had in my life. And thankfully I had 2 loving grandparents to help my mom raise me. And I try to carry their torch forward any chance I get. So,
you're a good person.
Yeah.
I try.
Yeah.
People test me sometimes, but I just smile and nod and keep moving forward.
What is life if you don't get tested? Okay. Right. That's very important to understand.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but we're going to have everybody come and see. You're going to be in blue on that day, right?
Oh yeah, this is my Clark Kent look.
Clark Kent look familiar.
Yeah.
I saw that little thing going on there. So Blue Meanie is going to be there. I want everybody to come out. Buy your tickets now. 2300arena.com, please, is right. Buy your tickets, sign the petition. It's going to be a really, really, really cool event. No, it's not going to be
emotional. It's going to be emotional as well.
It's not going to be a WWE event. It's not going to be an AEW event, not a TNA event. It's not. It's going to be a TWA event. It's going to be its own.
It's going to be better than any of those others.
It's going to be homegrown.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And there's going to be a plethora of wrestlers there. Probably more wrestlers than you've seen in one spot in a long time.
And a lot of them you're not going to see again in this area because either they're retiring or, they're, especially, in this area. I know Rock and Roll Express, they're going to be retiring at the end of this year. But we don't really know if they'll be back in this area again. In 2025. So it's the last time you're going to see them, the last time you're going to see a lot of your favorites.
Matt Boyd, this is going to be his last match.
Retiring.
Tony Stetson, his last match. I think
John Finnegan.
Yeah,
last
John
referee
Finnegan,
match.
Last referee. Mm-hmm. Bruno's probably going to be his last match. There's a lot of people, and there's going to be a lot of people there. Imagine seeing Baby Doll. And come on, Baby Doll, and you're going to see Medusa Michelli. You're going to see
Heidi Lee Morgan.
Yeah, you're going to see Heidi Lee Morgan. God bless her.
You're Tessa Blanchard.
Yeah, and you're going to see Manny Fernandez. Yes. Okay, we can't forget Manny.
No,
he's always the Raging Bull. Always. Yeah. You're going to see a lot of people. Bring your autographs. And the beauty part of this is, and I want you to know this, it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg to get a picture or to get an autograph. That's the important part. Even the tickets are not that high. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want you to come. I want you to enjoy it. Again, Brian, I cannot thank you enough. It has been an honor to have you on our show.
Oh, thank you.
And you know what? It wasn't easy getting you. I got to be honest with you. And it's funny because I said to Joel, and I'm not going to lie, I said to Joel in the beginning, because I had reached out to you on Messenger a few times, and I'm like, what the hell? I said, he knows me. He's not answering me, And
the one time you reached out, you're like 50 messages deep because I get 50 messages of people just going, hi.
Yeah.
And all they say is,
come on, Brian. 49 of them were mine too. All right.
No, but when we had our shindig, and got together, you told me, and I went and found your message, and now I got you I got you.
Yeah,
saved.
and you've been
In
very
the right
kind,
folder.
and you've been answering all my messages.
Yes. Yeah, there's something weird about Messenger where like there's like this other thing where you have to go like I'll get some messages, but then there's like this secret folder where like these people who trying to message me must think I'm ignoring them. I'm like, no, I'm not ignoring you. I didn't just, you went to this message request folder. I don't know what it is. But.
Well, you know what? That's the thing now. If you're not friends with somebody on Facebook and you do want to message them on Messenger, that is what happens. They go into a folder and then you have to look in that folder and then it'll say, Brian, so-and-so wants to talk to you. Do you approve of that? And you have to approve it. That's where
I'm
I
getting
think
so much heat because of that, you know?
Yeah, that's where I think my original message went. And Joel says, well, Brian told me that if he doesn't know you or your face doesn't pop up on something, he's probably not going to answer. And I was like, well, tell him that I said he knows my face and I want him to answer.
Very well. I know you very well.
Yep. Well, Brian, you take care. God bless you.
Yes.
Again, thank you again. It has been amazing having you on. And
maybe we're gonna have a great time. We're going to have a great
time. And maybe somewhere down the road we'll have you back. I would love that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, you take care of yourself. Mwah, big kisses. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye, honey. Bye-bye. What a show. What a guy. He's so cute. He's so great.
I know. You just want to like pinch his cheeks.
Cheeks like this. Blue ones. Blue cheeks.
Yes.
Yes. It's great. But we're going to have a great time in May. We really are. I already put in to have
I'm getting more and
Monday.
more excited. More and more excited.
God willing, we're going to do the podcast from there as well. Like I said, I already put in for Monday the 5th off because I'm not going to make it to work. I know it. I already know it. But we're going to have a good time, and it would be great to see everybody. Imagine having all of us together again, all going back to the old Marriott, having a great time, laughing, dancing, drinking. I'll tell you what, if I start drinking, Jeannie, we're staying all night long. I'm telling you right now. Okay.
Oh, I'm getting a room. So
and anybody wants to hang out, I'm going to drink. I'm just telling you, I don't drink. I might actually.
And also, if you want to do the same thing, because nobody drinks and drive.
No.
You know, if you're going to go and you get a room, if you mention one and done, TWA one and done, you get a discount room rate.
Yes, exactly.
Joel got a block of room, so and if anybody wants to, you can get so this way.
It'll be just like it used to be. Just put a bunch of people in one room, but don't ruin anything. Okay.
No,
I don't want that associated with our name. So be nice. All right. But we're going to have a great time. Next week, I'm trying to think of who our guest is going to be next week. Because I forgot already. No, next week is going to be, look at your calendar. Next week.
I have Randy Hale.
That's right. Oh my God. Randy Hale, for those of you who don't know who he is, he was a commentator in the old Memphis wrestling. Talk about old school. We got a lot to talk to him about. He was a commentator, kind of like Michael Cole, in the old Memphis wrestling. So it's going to be a really good show. I'm sure he's going to have a ton of stuff to tell us. We got our 52nd week is coming up, our first year, and we're going to do something special for that day too. So please listen, please share, please like, please subscribe. Okay. And we will be back next week as always. And thank you again for listening. Thank you to you, because without you, there is nothing. I do want to say one thing before we sign off, and this has nothing to do with wrestling. Okay. Just remember that children are priceless. Okay. If anybody is blessed enough to have a child, anybody, please be kind to that child. Please love that child, and please take care of that child, and be careful who you leave your children with. Just take it from me. Okay. Anyway, Jeannie, I love you.
I love you.
We'll see you next
Eagles
week.
Eagles are in the Super Bowl.
Yay!
Go Birds.
Yay! Go Birds. Yay! So we're going to talk about that after next week, because the 9th is the Super Bowl, right? That's Monday.
Yeah, it's not this weekend. It's next weekend.
Next weekend. I thought it was on Monday. I thought usually it's on Sunday, isn't it?
It's Sunday.
Super Bowl? Oh, Sunday it is? I thought somebody said Monday. Well, anyway, yes. The Super Bowl is going to be awesome. We're going to win. Yay. I'll tell you what. There is nothing in this world, nothing like a Philadelphia parade. And I don't
Oh
care
my
what anybody
God.
says.
Yeah.
You know, people don't like Philly, and that's fine. I love Philly, and I always will be a Philly girl, period, through and through.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, if I could walk that long and I could stand that long, I'd go to the damn parade again. I went to one and I loved it, and it was great. And if you can experience it, because let me tell you, there's nothing like it.
Safely.
There's nothing like it.
Safely.
The same as the hotel. Don't
Yes.
start any trouble. Okay. Be nice. All right. Because we all want to have a good time, but we all want to get out of there alive.
Yes.
Okay. And in one piece. So everybody be safe, be happy, have a great weekend. And we will see you next week. Jeannie.
All right.
I love you.
I love you.
We'll see you later. Take care now.
Bye.